Sarah's life has been a story for me about learning to trust that what God says He is going to accomplish, even though it may take years and years. And sometimes I think Sarah gets a bad rap because she, didn't believe that God was going to give her a son because she was, barren for so long, or had all of these things that she is often pointed out for not believing. I think Sarah is a story of God persevering with her and her learning to realize that she can love Him and she can trust Him and know that He is good, even when she has yet to feel those blessings. And she can trust Him through her own failings. God came back to her again and again. And there are so many times in Sarah's story, I think with Bible characters, we want to be like they were shiny and clean and pretty. And her story, really, if you read it, there's like, this is Sarah. Ooh, Sarah did something that really wasn't that great. And oh, this is Sarah. She's the wife of Abraham who is given these promises. And oh, she did something that really wasn't great. And you see, I think that we see ourselves in that story. And specifically, I think through her learning to suffer well with the belief that God is at work, and learning to believe that He is going to do what He promises. And at the end of her story, in Hebrews 11, it says of her that by faith Sarah herself received ability to conceive, since, in her old age, since she considered Him faithful who had promised. Sarah's work wasn't, yes, it was to conceive, but Sarah's work was to believe that He was faithful, that He had promised her and He would come through. And there have been periods of suffering in our life through failed overturned adoptions, through watching children suffer, through really hard situations in foster care, through watching our own children's stories unfold, and the grief and the loss that each of them have experienced in different ways. There have been periods where what God says that is true does not actually feel true in the moment. Ultimately, God helped Sarah to suffer well. And then He brought to life what He had promised for her. And I think that has helped me recognize and really wrestle with the fact of, am I going to believe that what God says is true? Am I going to believe that He is going to accomplish what He promised, even if I don't see it happening in front of me right now, even if I don't feel it happening in front of me? Do I believe that God can do something? Do I believe that God is doing something, even if it feels silent or even if it feels very dark? I think that helps give a determination to go through hard times without having a pity party for yourself, without being a complainer, without being a victim that is stuck in my life is harder than everybody else because. And He ultimately, when we can see and believe that who He says He is as God is actually who He is, and I have to lay down my definition of what I think God should be like in this situation and trust that He is doing something that is greater than me, and my world revolves around Him, not His around me. I think that gives us strength to feel heartbreak, to feel loss, to feel disappointment, and not become bitter by it. But also, like with Sarah's story, I think there's a lot of hope because, like, who doesn't go through a hard time and struggle with those feelings? Like, we all struggle with failing. I think that is encouraging, that God can take us and that He chose us initially from the beginning of time. There's a purpose on our life. There's a call on our hearts. And He is going to complete what He started in us. And He's not going to stop. And it's okay if there's bumps. It's okay if we fall. Like, Jesus came so we could get up again. God promised what He said He's going to do in our lives. And He's going to be faithful. And I think sometimes, especially in our American culture, like, we need to be okay with walking by faith and not by sight. And that's really easy to say, but it's really hard to do when your actual reality are broken pieces that you're dealing with in life. But handling broken pieces in a way that brings glory to God trusting Him that He's going to do it, and I can let go of the results. I can let go of like all of my perfect ideals that I wished were happening, and I can simply like trust and follow God, because I can consider Him faithful. Like, I can consider that what He says is truer than what I feel. I can consider Him to be a mighty God, even when I have yet to see Him work in the situation. I would believe that that is truer than what my definition wants to be.